And one of the relationships that started to interest me was the parent-child relationship. Because if you ask a parent, most parents, healthy parents, why do you love your child? They won't say, well, because they got an A in English yesterday and because they did something so cute this morning. And they'll just say, what do you mean? Because they're my child, because they're mine. They don't need another reason. They just go, this is my child. You can even see this effect with people and their dogs. You see really ugly dogs walking down the street and think, if you walk up to a dog owner and you say, why do you love your dog? They say, what are you talking about? It's my dog. If you saw up a more beautiful, stately dog and said, do you want to exchange it? They'd be like, you're out of your mind. What are you talking about? This is my dog. That, for me, left a massive clue as to how we can love ourselves, which is to say, of the 8 billion, this is the mistake we make. We look at 8 billion people on this earth and we say, how do I match up? But instead, we have to look at it from a completely different place and go, of the 8 billion people on this earth, I'm the only person who is responsible for taking care of this human. It's like at birth, we were given a human. And someone else's job, like a parent figure, their job was to help us get through the first few years and survive those first few years. They may not have done a good job. They may have done a good job. Either way, someone else had the job of keeping us alive. But at a certain point, we got given custody of this human. And our one job from that point on is just give this human the best life you can give them. Whatever that means, whether it means helping them actualize, whether it means helping them be happy, helping them feel peaceful, helping them experience joy, give this human the best life possible. So now, if you imagine someone asking you, why should you love yourself? The answer is very simple. You don't need to find reasons. You go, I love myself because I'm mine, my human. And that, to me, when I started looking at it like that, it changed everything, because it no longer mattered whether I matched up to somebody else. It's like completely irrelevant, because I can't exchange my human for another human. So what's the point? What's the point in what I'm doing or what they're doing? Well, they're taller than me. They're better looking than me. They're this, they're that. It doesn't matter. Only human I get. So forget the comparison. Just what would I do today if I was taking care of my human? And that turns loving yourself from a feeling you have to have into an approach. That changes everything, because what you realize is I don't actually have to like myself in order to love myself. Loving myself comes first. Liking myself can come later. But the more I love myself, the more I actually approach the more I take care of this human, nurture this human, stand up for this human, try and give them the best life possible, I might just also accomplish liking myself at some point and developing an affection for myself, because it's hard not to develop an affection for someone who does all of that for you. But in the beginning, you don't have to worry about the feeling. You just have to worry about taking care of your human. And that, for me, changed everything.
Did you have a problem operationalizing that? Like turning that into practice when you first started?
It required constant repetition, because the instinct is to go back to comparison. The instinct is to go back to looking at where I don't match up. Or the instinct, because of my wiring, was to go back to guilt, telling myself I'm not doing enough, but it required me constantly going back to a frame of reference of going, I have one job. My one job is to take care of this human. How am I doing in that job today? Like if I'm like, I dealt, one of the things I talk about in the book is my chronic pain. And I dealt with that for years. And it was, for me, it became crippling. And this was physical pain. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, still have it, but it's my relationship with it is completely different now. But I had tinnitus, where I just had ringing in my ears nonstop for years and years, combined with crippling headaches and ear and pain in my head and dizziness and all sorts of symptoms that really I couldn't be present in with all of it. But the thing that made it so much worse was how I treated myself every day that I had it. Like I hated myself for it. And I had all this story around it about what it meant and how weak I felt and how I wasn't being productive and how I couldn't get it together. And it just, all that story was like the worst thing about it. The pain was already bad. The story then turned it into something completely unmanageable. And I had to get to a point where I went, I have one job. Like, I'm supposed to be taking care of this human. And right now, when this human is in pain, I'm acting so inhumanely. If this was my brother or, my partner or my mom, or like, I would have such compassion for how in pain they are all the time. And with me, I'm just turning it into this artery of shame and self-loathing, which is just unimaginably cruel to do to a person. And that would be unimaginably cruel to do to any human being. So even if you just decide I'm a human being in this world, and therefore I deserve as much decency and love as I would give anyone else, that would already be cause to treat myself better than I was in those moments. But when I reminded myself, it's not just that I'm a human, it's that I'm my human. I have a special responsibility to give myself encouragement and compassion and love. That changed things for me. And for me, operationalizing it meant consistently, like I have in my life what I call emotional buttons. And they are, for me, triggers for thoughts or truths that I have access to at my fingertips all the time. And I have notes on my phone that have emotional buttons in. I have notes on my computer. Every morning I wake up and I do 10 minutes of just reviewing my emotional buttons and the things that trigger them. And for me, emotional buttons can come from all different places, but I would have emotional buttons around self-compassion that I would have at my fingertips, so that I wake up in the morning and I know my instinct is to wake up in deficit and to immediately, no matter...
You've been asleep, you soft fuck.
Yeah,
Get up and start working.
Exactly. Yeah. You were not, like, yesterday you did an amazing job, but that was yesterday. And now today we're in deficit and we have to kill ourselves to get to a place where we're even again. And that was like waking up with compassion, no self-compassion whatsoever. So I have emotional buttons that in the morning I would read and they would connect me back to how I wanted to treat myself, to why I was, what energy I wanted to bring to this person today. And that, for me, those emotional buttons are game changers. Those, by the way, are a great strategy for anything. Like I have emotional buttons for before I go to the gym. I have emotional buttons for, I have emotional buttons I have emotional buttons for writing. I have them for everything because I can't rely on having the right feelings naturally. But what I can rely on is that I've felt something before. Like if I notice I'm feeling towards myself right now, or I'm feeling more loving towards myself right now, or I'm just, there's a way of looking at myself that's creating self-compassion, I will write that down and turn it into an emotional button so that the next time I need to access that, I don't have to try to locate the same thought. It's just, I have a way of getting back there very, very quickly. Winston Churchill said, men stumble over the truth, but most pick themselves up and carry on as if nothing happened. And it's a great, for me, it always tied in everything I do I teach people on emotional buttons, because everything I want to feel, I've probably felt before at some point, and it's been connected with a certain way of thinking, a certain thought pattern, sometimes an object or a piece of music or something. I just need an instruction manual for getting back to the places I need to get back to. And I have, through my emotional buttons, like having an instruction manual for everything I want to feel at any given moment. And I have it for all different emotions. So I have emotional buttons for excitement, emotional buttons for, wanting to train, emotional buttons for feeling peaceful. I have them for everything. And they're some of the most valuable daily things that I use in my life. That's my operation manual.
Hell yeah.